What's up, everybody? My name is Jacob Hardison, and today, let's talk about rear hub height. So last week, of course, we discussed our rear camera link tuning position options and what each of those options are going to do to the vehicle around the track. Now, that is going to be a roll center adjustment, of course. So to continue with those roll center adjustments and to continue with the rear end of our vehicle, the next thing kind of in that line is going to be our rear hub height. So today we're going to go over what the hub height changes do and what to do when making each of those changes. Because at face value, you're probably thinking to yourself, well, all I have to do is just move the hinge pin location to a different hole, change the insert, and then I'm good to go, right? Wrong. So the reason for that is because as you're moving this entire hub, you're moving your axle height, you're moving your camera links locations, and you're going to be changing your droop in relation to the ground from the axle height. So it's going to be important to note that whatever change you make, you also need to make those matching changes elsewhere on the car. That way you don't get a very funky feeling car around the track. So we're gonna go ahead, swing you guys around, get you up close to the rear end, just like we did last week. That way you have that kind of visual reference as well as the audio reference. And we'll go ahead and tell you what each of the changes make. So now that we're spun around here looking at specifically our rear hub, I'm going to go over each of the tuning options, but I'm going to keep everything jumbled for lowering the hub in one section and then everything for raising the hub in another. That way we don't talk about the changes, and then after doing the changes for each, we talk about the corresponding. We're just going to keep it all together so everything stays nice and simple. So to start out here, because my car is already in this lower position, so that means my pin here is higher in the hub, but because it's higher in the hub, the entire hub moves down. That does make it very confusing, but unfortunately, it is just the way that it is. So when your pin sits in a higher location on the hub, that means that your hub is going to be moving downward. Now, what that downward motion is going to do is it's going to increase your rear grip. So it's going to be better on a lower grip condition, and the car is going to roll a little bit more. And that roll, because it can put more pressure on the outside of the tire, is going to then, of course, increase your rear grip. So that is going to be very, very straightforward. You know, it's easy to kind of figure to think about. There's not a whole lot that's going to change. It's specifically going to just increase that side-to-side rear grip. Now, as we lower the hub down, you're also going to be lowering your link location. So that's where these plates are going to come in, and this is where, of course, the corresponding changes are going to come in. So let's say that I had the A plate on here, which is going to be a lower plate. It's going to be a little bit shorter in comparison to this guy here. Well, now my link is way down low. I don't want that. I want to make sure that my rear link geometry stays the same, even though my hub geometry is changing a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change to a plate like what I've got on right now, which is going to be a little bit taller. That taller plate is going to, of course, move our link back up, and it's going to keep the geometry here the same while changing the geometry here. The other thing you're going to have to do is, because your entire wheel, your entire hex has now moved close to the ground, you are going to have to adjust your droop. So traditionally, as this moves down, you'll go ahead and you'll take droop out of the car itself. That is why it's very important, and that's why you'll see a lot of times nowadays, instead of measuring droop as the total stroke length of the shock, you'll actually see it measured from this rear hex. That way, as you make these hub changes, your axle height to the ground from a full droop standpoint will stay the same. So in my case, I believe on the rear with a 36 mil droop block, my rear droop sits at 25, regardless of whether I have the hub high or low. This is always going to change or be the same in relation to the ground. That way, again, none of this stuff is changing except for just this location here. We want to keep our geometry elsewhere the same. Switching gears now to raising the hub up. So now this pin location is lower on the hub itself, which means that the entire hub is now going to move upwards. We're going to first talk again about what that tuning change is, and then the corresponding things that you're going to want to do as you make those changes. So when we move our hub up, it's going to do the opposite of what moving it down is. It's going to take away that side-to-side traction, but it is going to increase your forward traction. So you'll notice you have a little bit more forward grip in the sense of your acceleration is going to be more aggressive. You're gonna have more of that grip, so it's gonna get out of the turn a little bit faster. But of course, because you're taking away side grip, you will have to be a little bit quicker on catching the rear end to make sure you don't over-rotate. Sometimes as you get back into the power, that will kind of compensate a little bit for the side-to-side traction, but on face value, it is going to take away that side grip and increase your forward grip. So with that being said, it is going to be better for a higher grip track, and the car is going to roll a little bit less throughout the turns. And that is going to be better on that, probably more of like a European style track, that are super duper high grip. You just want the car to pivot really fast. You already have tons of grip, so you don't need more side grip. You just want the car to shoot out as quick as possible. Now, when you make that change, just like when we lower the hub, we need to make corresponding changes. We'll talk about our camber link position. So as we have gone up, now our position here has gone up as well. So I'll go from a tall plate to a lower plate. That way, again, my position in correlation here to my shock tower is gonna stay the same. I'm only adjusting my location here. So I'll go from this taller plate to a lower plate. That way, my link is back where it was before I made any sort of adjustments here. To go along with that, just like how we had to change the droop when we lowered the rear hub, in this case, because we're raising it back up, we're going to need to add some droop to the car. That, of course, is going to be measured with your droop screw. And same thing, just like I said before, that is the reason why it's important to measure your droop from the axle height. That way your relation of axle height to ground is the same. You're just changing the position here in the hub itself. So that is going to cover our rear hub adjustment changes and what corresponding changes that you'll want to make as you do each of those height adjustments. Obviously, in some cases, if you don't want to, you don't have to make, for example, the corresponding camber link adjustment, but you do have to be prepared that that is going to be a more aggressive change than just changing the hub height. And because of that, the majority of the time, you will make the corresponding changes. That way, you're just changing your hub geometry here, not your link or your axle height geometry. If you guys need any more clarification on anything, please feel free to leave a comment down below and I will make sure to get back to you as soon as possible. Or if you have any questions about anything, want any more detail, definitely, again, let me know and I will make sure to help you guys out. So with that being said, thank you for joining me today and we'll see you guys next time for an all new video.